And now we're live. Wonderful.
Okay.
It's so good to see you. Hello, hello. Oh, we see.
Hello.
I knew somebody would join us.
All right.
Hello,
Yay.
hello. It's so good to see all of you join us. I'm Barbara Tien here with Projectkin, and joining me today is Shell Norman. I'm so glad to see you here, and it is a thrill to see so many of you joining.
Excellent.
We are here because Norman is Shell, as an active member of this community, had been telling us about the challenge of telling your own story, of telling a difficult story. And when the book first came, good morning, Jay. New Zealand is in the room. I think I saw
Yay.
Australia fly by. Welcome, welcome. Good morning. Canada is here. Hello, Erin. Welcome. So this all started, I think you were in the last stages of the book, because I remember you
Right.
sharing the cover and one
hmm
this and one that. And then you said, "Oh, hello, Chris. Welcome." And then you said, "Okay, it's done. It's shipping." And I got so excited. I was like, I know this person. I shall. So I got the book. I was like, oh, and it was so deeply personal. And I can just imagine what a story it was to tell. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about that story and why we're here?
Okay. So I joined Substack after I had almost finished, not quite finished. I started writing this story, which was a true story. And this happened years ago that I started writing. And I didn't really know for sure where it was going to go. But I knew that I needed to talk to people who kind of were in the field. And I
Mhm.
have a really good neighbor who's a writer, published author, and a Substacker. So he told me about Substack, which I was not familiar with at all. So I joined, and I'm so glad I did because I learned so much. Right at the last stages of writing my book, I did not have a cover. I did not have the formatting. I didn't have all that going yet. And but I met people, connected with your group, the genealogy group, people who talk and write about family history. And I knew I needed to plug in there because this is about family history as well as some deeply profound family secrets. So I didn't know kind of how to separate that. I'm not a researcher in genealogy, but I'm definitely interested in all things family tree, DNA, ancestry, that kind of thing. So I just started meeting people in that realm, and that put me in touch with some people to do some editing and get everything together with formatting. Found an artist for my cover design and all of that, and things just came together.
Mhm.
And by that time, I had a couple people already interested in wanting to, hear what's going to happen with this book. So that was kind of fun and
Wow.
providential.
Well, yeah. And I think right there you said several things, one of which was the experience of another published writer giving
hmm
you that guidance. And yet here you
hmm
are and bringing that full circle, because
Yeah.
some of it is gosh, I remember you asking me about, marketing tips for this. Is like, I don't
Yes.
know. I've not done a book. Um,
Yeah.
and I watched the other answers flow in about what that
hmm
was about. I think one of the things that I wanted to focus today's conversation on was really the challenge
hmm
of talking about hard things. I think many of you
Yes.
out there in the audience, and perhaps you as well, will know the name Rhonda Lauritsen. She is very active in the genealogy community and has given a talk to has given a talk in the Roots Tech program for a number of
hmm
years, which is sort of the hard thing about hard things, how to
Yeah.
talk about hard things. Tell
hmm
us a little bit about that challenge.
Yeah. Well, it is very difficult. And for a while, I couldn't even really speak about these things. And just for people who haven't read my story yet, it's not severe abuse or anything. So I know that's also very sensitive. But this is another sensitive issue, and I really had a hard time. I wasn't on the other side of it yet. I was still processing, even though I was writing. And so I couldn't really talk about it very well. And so when I started writing stories on Substack to point, you know, give little breadcrumbs, I like to say, towards my overarching story in the book, then I started processing and I was kind of hinting at these topics that would come out in my book, but I didn't want to give it away totally. So
Mhm.
I was sort of protecting the main story, but giving hints. But that helped.
Yeah, Jennifer commented a moment ago about also having read it and
Uh-huh.
really deeply appreciating it as an amazing book. And Jane just chimed in with, "Do you think the process of writing helps with the processing?" I think it's a great question.
Absolutely, 100%. Writing was so therapeutic, both writing the book and writing these other stories and getting to know other writers and readers on Substack. All of that was therapeutic. That helped me so much to overcome and to get to this other side where I could talk about it. And I wanted to talk about it. Not only could I, but I wanted to now.
Yeah.
And, I got to the point where I said, writing is therapeutic when you're doing it for you. But once it's out there, it's published or it's posted, now it's for others. It's no longer for me, it's for someone else. And that that really kind of helps my focus with everything I write now. I write it so that I think about the person who
Reading it.
maybe needs to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
How do you when do you know what is appropriate for a diary and what is appropriate for, well, I suppose
Hmm.
therapists as well, but what is
Yeah,
for a diary and what is for a published book? And where did
right.
you at times while writing it think, wonder, ah!
Yeah. Well, yeah, calling it a memoir was
Mhm.
also difficult for me because I had, been in touch with authors, prolific authors, and at writers' conferences talking to publishers and agents and so forth. And they really are kind of afraid of this memoir category because they're they don't know you. You're not
Mhm.
famous, or I'm not anyway.
Mhm.
So they haven't heard me speak. They don't really know.
But geez, here,
Can
well,
I
you're already
trust?
famous.
Yeah, right. Right. And so, there's a danger for them. They think I could read this memoir and it could be like a diary. It could be just I'm listening to her rehash her whole life
Yeah.
story and her upbringing, and maybe I'm not that interested in that, or other people aren't going to be as interested in that. So I was always careful that it wasn't that. It wasn't me just
Mhm.
telling my life story because I don't know that many people would care about that.
Yeah.
But it's telling a story about love mainly.
Mhm.
It's this bond and this unconditional love I had from my father, and that people want to hear. They may not want to hear where I grew up and, all these
Yeah. Yeah.
experiences that I had. But
Mhm.
they do want to hear about relationship and they do want to hear about how to overcome when you feel that the ground shifted below you, or you crashed and your identity is kind of lost and all tangled up. They want to hear about untangling that.
Can you unpack why?
Why people want to hear that? Or
Yeah,
why?
obviously what
Yeah.
I had for dinner is not all that interesting.
Right.
But
Exactly.
this happened and then that happened and then that happened.
Exactly.
What
Right.
is it about those
Hmm.
emotions? What is it about that
Hmm.
untangling that makes it so compelling?
Hmm. Well, I feel that many of us are tangled up. There's
Oh God.
there's so many people out there, or I like to say, they have these ghosts or skeletons in the closet. We all have them, and that's evident at other times when I've been at speaking events, and there's a large group of people there, and they're all raising their hand. I wanted to tell about this, or this happened, or this happened to my family, or whatever. We all have these family stories that maybe we have wanted to keep hidden, or locked up and down, tied up in the basement, nice and neat. We don't want others to necessarily hear that, or we think that we shouldn't let people
Or
hear
that's
that.
what we were
Yeah,
told.
right, right. Or we might ruin the reputation of those before us. And that was actually a concern of mine. I did have a little moment of panic once I published, and I thought, what if my brother reads this and gets angry, and says,
Mhm.
why would you tell all of our family secrets? Why would other people have to know this? But he doesn't read much anyway, so you know.
No, but that's a huge question because you could have done it under
hmm
a pseudonym or something.
Which I did.
So,
By the way, that is a
oh,
pseudonym.
well,
Yes, Shell Norman is it's a name that is a part of me, yes,
mhm.
but it is a pen name. And
Yeah,
I did it for
yeah,
that reason because of the reputation of all the people who have
yeah,
passed on. None
yeah,
of my parents are alive anymore.
yeah.
Um, but still, we have
Oh,
relatives, and I,
I
I didn't
understand.
want to throw them under the bus.
Yeah, yeah. What
hmm
did you know and when did you know it? This is not a whodunit.
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
So
Yeah, so
how,
instead I focused on the story that would mean something to someone else. So they may have the same family secret that I had happen to me, but certainly something.
right.
Um, or maybe they are questioning, their identity, like, who am I really? Or why am I
Mm,
here? What's my
yeah,
purpose? And all of that.
yeah,
I want to focus on the aspect of the story that gets
mhm,
to that
yeah,
nugget for
yeah.
someone else. Yeah.
It must be very hard relative to knowing, you're dealing with a lot of
hmm
fragile feelings. How do you handle that?
Well, yeah, until I got through this process, I didn't handle it very well at all because I didn't tell anyone. I really kept things all covered up. And I allude to that in some of my stories posted on Substack. One of them is called Are Secrets Making You Sick?
Mhm.
And I kind of gave the metaphor of having these boxes hidden down in the basement. And I kept them hidden there. I kept wearing a mask. I did not even tell my family, except for my daughters. I did not tell my sisters, my siblings, cousins, or anyone that I was writing at all. They didn't know I wrote. They didn't know I wrote a book. They didn't know my secret that I was going to reveal. I just kept it all hidden. And
Yeah,
I kind of thought, I don't care if they ever know. I mean, I'm not going to go tell them, you know.
yeah,
I don't care if they ever know. So I don't think I was handling it very well at all. I was a little too worried about um, not how they would treat me any differently, but just shattering the illusions for them.
yeah,
I didn't want to, I was sort of protecting them, from experiencing that because that's what it felt like for me
mhm, mhm,
is it felt like everything came crashing down and I didn't want that to happen to them.
mhm.
So I didn't tell them for a while. But after I got it all out there and, started hearing from other people, somebody asked me the question, um, are you really going to keep this story just for you? Or are you going to let it help someone else? And that was kind of convicting. I thought, I guess I shouldn't just keep it for me.
Wow, there's the
Mhm,
moment. There is
mhm,
the moment. That
mhm.
is really brilliant, and it's sort of, it's that why are we doing this? Well, who
Right.
is this for? And I
Yeah.
imagine that when you're in book clubs
Hmm.
and bookstores having conversations, as you were telling me, can go
Hmm.
on for hours as people keep saying, oh,
Hmm.
oh, oh, let me tell you my story.
Exactly.
There is
Hmm.
something about, well, I'm sure there's a deep psychological term for this, validation. I don't
Yes.
know if that's it,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
I had that happened to me too. And here's
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
story.
Hmm.
Something so, you know,
It's
what have,
encouraging. Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
What have you learned from doing that? And where are you going to take this from now?
Well, I have learned that it feels darn good to not carry that secret around. It was heavy. I was getting heavy, and I was willing to carry it. Even my own daughter, I have two grown daughters, so
Mhm.
um my own daughter would say to me, you're going to feel better if you get this off of your shoulders. And I kept saying, nope, it's okay. I feel fine carrying it around.
Mhm.
But I did not realize how good I really would feel to get it off my shoulders and to be able to talk about things freely and see how it touches other people. I don't think I told this story on Substack yet, but there is a 88-year-old woman who has known me my whole life. She's a friend of mine's mother, and she read my book. And after reading it, she decided to tell her whole family, all grown children at this time, and grandchildren, a family secret that she had been carrying over 80 years, something she never told anyone. And it was not the same secret. It wasn't even closely related to my story. But she said it was because of reading my book, and she realized how important it is to tell your story.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long, I mean, from the cover of your book, is it you can relate to the core elements of your story
Hmm.
without giving it away, I assume. How long between that discovery and the decision to start writing the book?
The discovery that is in the book that I unfurled. Okay.
I'm
That
letting
it's
you be the one to
I
decide what you can
know.
talk about and not.
I know. It has been about 7 years that I went through the main event. And so 7 years ago or 6 years ago, I started writing immediately. But in that case, I was sort of writing just to process. I didn't
Journaling.
know what I was going to do with it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I had no idea. I didn't know if it was going to be a book. I didn't know how it was going to end. Once it started, coming together and I was getting quite a bit written, I still was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know how I'm going to make it have a happy ending. Not that everything has to have a
And
happy
then she
ending, but
published a book.
yeah, right. I mean, I just was like, I don't know if I can end this well for people because I still felt fragmented. I was still uh, suffering, I guess. And so I'm thinking, how am I going to make it come out for somebody to
Mhm.
want to read it?
Mhm.
But I just kept going. I kept going, and writing other separate stories and such. And then things started, you know, coming together in a more, I wouldn't say linear, but a more organized fashion so that
Mhm.
this book could have a purpose.
I, as you know, spend a lot of time with our family history community. And one of the things I
Hmm.
just saw Kathy Stone join a short while ago. One of the things we often talk about is what is a legacy? What is it you're passing down?
Hmm.
And when you have received from ancestors, parents, grandparents, great grandparents, you've
Hmm.
received the box. And the box has the stuff in it. You don't know what the stuff is and what's our job. Well, you could take our job many different ways, but one of the things our job isn't is to take a bigger pile of stuff and send it on down the pike.
Yeah.
You want to do
Yeah.
something with it. And it's interesting as you
Mm-hmm.
describe this the process of writing your story, there is this inheritance in a
Mm-hmm.
sense,
Mm-hmm.
and there is an order that you have put to it, a processing and a meaning, and that becomes your legacy in a way that has nothing to do with bookstores.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
and it sounds to me from the way you've described it, my own reading of it, and our previous conversations, that it is a gift you're passing not just to your own family, but to any
Mm-hmm.
others, for all of those people in your bookstore
Mm-hmm.
talks and book clubs, of
Mm-hmm.
something that they can take and say, wait a minute, I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
carry this as a burden. And
Right.
I can help future generations process. And
Yeah,
processing takes lots of forms in the same way that motherhood isn't the same everywhere.
exactly.
Fatherhood isn't the
Yeah.
same everywhere. It
Mhm.
takes its own form in its own way. Wow.
And this identity
Yeah.
aspect, because I think most people, even when you are looking at your ancestors and you're studying genealogy and family trees and all of those who came before you, it does make you question, how do I fit in, who am I in this whole tree?
Mm.
And, for me, that got interrupted because I was always fascinated by that. And I inherited all the photographs that my grandmother kept. And on both sides of the family, my other grandmother also passed down some very old photos. I have photos from the 1800s, and I've
Mhm.
always loved sifting through those and looking for similarities with
Mm.
these
We all
um,
do.
people. Yeah. And and then, I ended up interrupting all of that and having to figure out where I sit in that tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it is not blood, then where does this all go? What does this all mean?
Mhm.
I'm right there
Mhm.
with you. I'm right there with you
Mhm.
in my own
Mhm.
complicated story. Jennifer Jones has just popped in with a very good point. Shell's book
Mhm.
would be a great book club book. So much to discuss after reading it, and even during reading it, I would add.
Yeah.
Now, you've
Thank
been doing this locally. You've been doing
Mhm.
bookstore talks
Mhm.
and book clubs, starting with your own book club.
Right.
But I would imagine that, unlike a bookstore sale, a book club is something you can do remotely
Yeah.
with a lot of different groups, as
Mhm.
the magic of Project Kin.
That would be lovely. Yes.
I think that would be absolutely fabulous. Although it probably would be pretty awesome to have, even professionals in there with, with therapy background or other kinds of things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that would take a pretty large group to justify
Uh-huh.
those kinds of things. But it's just such a,
Right.
yeah, in my own story, I have shared in different bits at different times. There was a similar sort of surprise. You don't know me, but experience,
Mhm.
and it is so it shakes the ground, and you're like, does
Mhm.
anybody know? Can anybody see that in me?
Mhm.
It is such a very basic, simple thing. And yet, when
Mhm.
you talk to more people, you start to understand how, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
and it's family in its so many, many forms. And I'd
Mhm.
like to think that, given all the things that we're doing here, that, a lot of that discovery of who family is and what we pass down
Mhm. Mhm.
is, there's a really important step that we're taking in telling that story.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Story is
Yeah,
how
and
we understand meaning.
storytelling is, yes, it is. It's how we understand meaning. It's also healing, I believe.
Mhm.
Storytelling is healing. And
Mhm.
so people started calling me a storyteller, in some of the stories that I've been posting out there. And I thought, yes, I want to be a storyteller. There's a good purpose for that.
Yeah. I mean, storytelling is so, so basic. We don't even think about the many forms it takes. Linda's just chimed in there. Yes, it is healing.
Yeah.
And, as kids, we learn they had this little cycle, and then you're in the third grade and you learn how to write a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then we hear all of the stories that we've always known.
Mhm.
Really understanding that deeper layer and how those things come together can just bring so much. It's certainly everything that motivates me for Project Kin has
Mhm.
less to do with the arc of data and facts, and I can say that because we have such an extraordinary resources that are pulling those kinds of
Exactly.
things in, but it's
Right.
also the take the time to bring that meaning out of it and bring those
Mhm.
stories in
Mhm.
any form it takes. Wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
Shell, it's such a privilege to have you joining us to take the time to do this. I hope we'll be able to see you in more of these kinds of events and all of you in the audience to have a chance to find Shell on Substack. I will include all of your link information when I
Excellent.
circulate the recording. But since we're here,
Mhm.
do you want to
Mhm.
tell us? Actually, you should have a subscribe button up there, but go ahead.
Yes, shellnorman.com actually from out there um, brings you right to my Substack
Right.
profile.
And then
Mhm.
at Shell Norman within Substack itself.
Yes.
And the
Mhm.
name of your book again,
Oh, it is My Father's Daughter.
My Father's Daughter. There we go. You
Yeah.
want to tell us anything about that cover?
Mhm. Yeah, this artwork here does stop people in their tracks, I have to say. And I can say that because it's not mine. So I'm not bragging. I didn't draw it, but I did get in touch
Inspire
with
it.
an artist and loved the art and, just got a commercial license to use this piece because it fit with my story so well. And you can see I'm very interested in DNA.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the DNA strand there. And I worked with another publisher about the title and the design and the
So it
color and
sounds to
all of
me as
that.
though for all of
Hmm.
those aspiring writers out there, you also have a few tips to share as well,
Hmm.
and your
Sure.
ongoing discussions
Yeah.
in your Substack
Hmm.
continue with that kind of background and
Right.
insight as well.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us today. I know all of you out there in Substack land have been paying close attention. I really appreciate you joining us
Thank
today.
you. I want to say it's my privilege. So you said, thank you for the privilege. It is my privilege and pleasure. And I thank you so much for
Oh, you're
inviting
very
me.
welcome. You're very welcome. And thank you, Diane, for kind words about the book and the topic. You're very welcome, Diane. It's great fun to be here. Later this week, that is to say Tuesday, I'm also hosting in my second hat, Mission Genealogy, where we do an office hours section for Q&A of all the things you didn't know to ask. But also this time, I decided since the following week, Jennifer Jones is picking up with our Speakers Corner, and she will be hosting the Substack Live. Um,
Excellent.
I'm going to do a little talk at the very beginning about best practices for using Substack Live. As you know, as my guest,
Mhm.
I've shared some of that with you. I'm always
Yes.
sharing what I know because, you can read all about it from Substack, but there are little tricks that are not obvious.
Yeah, and this is my first time, so I needed all the help I could get.
It's my pleasure. It's like this little thing that I've learned how to do, and I'm very happy to invite and show
Yeah.
other people how to do it. So join us for Mission Genealogy. That one's actually hosted on Zoom because, share graphics. And you'll have to register at that. And like all of these, you go to projectkin.org/events. But thank you. You found your way here. So thank you all so much. And we'll look
Yes,
forward
thank you.
to seeing you online on the in and among the stacks, if not in and among the books.
Thank
Thank you
you.
again. Thank you, everyone. I so appreciate you joining us today. Bye bye now.
Bye-bye.